morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome to Living Truthfully. Episode, I don't know if I care anymore. Because it's 2021. And we made it. Wacha nikwambie. 2021. I wasn't sure if I was going to see it. But here we are. And we thank God for it. Yes, and we're back to your favorite podcast. We have stories upon stories. We have conversations that you want to hear. And I'm going to start off this year with an interview that I actually had towards the end of last year with a man that I was so privileged and honored to meet. I can't pronounce his name for sure, like properly right now. But he is the deputy Swedish ambassador. And, well, karibu. Let's start the show. Today, I am honored and privileged to have probably our senior most guest yet. I met this gentleman a couple of weeks ago. There was International Men's Day, and I was invited for this dinner called the Global Guy Talk. And I went to the Swedish ambassador's residence. Believe it or not, I was at the Swedish ambassador's residence. The only disappointment is that I expected Swedish food. What I found was Kenyan food. But I found something very interesting because I found a conversation with other men very close to what we have here at Living Truthfully. And more importantly, very close to what we are doing at the Den. And gentlemen, I wanted to say ladies and gentlemen, because I know the ladies are listening, but gentlemen, the man that was behind this conversation is a man that I have the privilege of introducing to you today. He's a deputy Swedish ambassador to Kenya. His name is Michael, I hope I say this right, Hjelmåker.
Well done, well done.
And please give him a round of applause as he comes right in. Karibu, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Michael, how do you pronounce that second name?
In English, it's turned into Hjelmåker.
Yeah. Do you yell?
I don't yell much.
So that is not a proper representation of who you are.
Not quite, no. Wouldn't say so.
But how do you say it in Swedish?
Hjelmåker.
Hjelmåker.
Oh, there you go.
Hjelmåker.
Yeah, exactly.
Does it have a meaning?
It has zero meaning. And there aren't many of us with that name.
Oh, really?
No.
So where does it come from?
It's an old family name,
okay.
Which was taken a couple of generations back.
Okay.
And now we're about 45 Hjelmåkers.
Oh, wow.
Around the world.
I feel like there's an opportunity to actually create a product called Hjel, whatever it would be. And then you have this family of Hjelmakers, that started this product. But it's really good to have you here. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Tell me something, Michael. When did you know you wanted to be a diplomat?
Well, I grew up as the son of a diplomat.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
And I think when you grow up in that type of environment,
yes,
where you're moving around a bit, mm-hmm, my father's first posting was here in Kenya.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up here in 79 to 83.
Oh, that's crazy. You were here during the coup?
Yes, indeed.
Do you remember it?
I have no memories at all, I'm afraid. I was here between the ages of 4 and 8.
Oh, wow.
So I have very few memories.
Yes.
But living in that environment, hearing those conversations, I think it gives you a little bit of a different outlook on life.
Yes.
Than if I had grown up in a non-diplomat family in Sweden.
Yeah.
And it just sort of it gives cause for some interests and some questions about the world. And then I accidentally happened to start studying political science. Mm-hmm.
Accidentally? What was
it sounded general. It sounded general enough that it would be interesting.
Yeah.
It didn't have any natural sciences as part of it.
Okay.
So I got away from math, chemistry, and biology. That's
and that
clever.
stuff. That's clever.
for me, necessary. And I simply continued down that path. Then I did a year of a master's in development studies, and then I got an internship at the ministry, and that was it.
Fantastic. Tell me about the work that you do here. You're the deputy head of mission here.
Yeah.
And I know the mission here covers several countries. You cover Seychelles, you cover the Comoros Islands, and of course Kenya. Do you cover any other countries?
No.
Okay.
It's those three that the embassy here in,
and Somalia as well.
Somalia. That's the difference. We have a construct here which almost becomes an embassy within an embassy.
Yeah.
So one of the sections here at the embassy deals only with Somalia, both the political relations and the development support that we give to Somalia. But in my role as deputy, it's all about Kenya, Seychelles, and Comoros.
Okay. And what does a deputy ambassador do on a normal day?
On a normal day, I'm in charge of what we have here called the section for politics and trade.
Okay.
So we follow the political developments in Kenya, which are many.
I will not ask you about those.
No, it's fascinating. It's a 5-year election cycle.
Yes.
If you compare to Sweden, where it's about a month and a half, more or less.
Oh, really?
Here, the election.
Yeah, I mean the election
starts.
Ends. Yeah, the next process starts immediately. The first one is done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In Sweden, it's a matter of a few months where the political temperature rises.
Okay.
So that's a huge difference, but fascinating to take part of. So it's about following that and reporting on that. But then it's also about trade.
Okay.
So following the trade situation here in Kenya, trade between Sweden and Kenya.
Are we trading much between Kenya and
Sweden? We're not trading much. We're looking to increase on both sides.
Just for curiosity's sake, and you can decline if this crosses a line, don't worry about it. But what are the trade interests that Sweden would have with Kenya? Like, what do you see from Kenya that you'd say would love to trade with this?
But I mean, Kenya has some fantastic comparative advantages, not least in agriculture.
Yes,
of course.
Yeah,
where Sweden is certainly not one of those countries that benefits most from that opportunity.
Yeah.
So we're looking at how we could increase that. But we're also, I mean, it is really important when you're discussing trade to look at both sides.
Yes.
It has to be a mutually beneficial relationship.
Definitely.
So we're also looking at how could we increase tourism? Because I mean, look at the tourism possibilities here. And if you look at what Kenya has today, it's nowhere close to the amount of income that this country should be generating.
Yes, that's true.
From its amazing beaches, wildlife, all of that. I mean, you all know it.
Yeah, the countryside. I mean,
it's unique.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, it's a constant dialogue, but also trying to get Swedish companies interested in this part of the world. And it's a little bit of a challenge because it's far away.
Okay.
And some Swedes, some Europeans, I would say, including Swedes, have preconceived notions of Africa and not really distinguishing between different parts of Africa. Where Kenya is a unique, I mean, this is the hub of Eastern Africa here.
It is.
And we're hearing more and more from Swedish companies that are interested. Wow. So we're trying to promote that because that's going to benefit Sweden and it will definitely benefit the Kenya consumers as well.
If Sweden was to export something to Kenya, what would it be?
Something that we're not already exporting?
Yeah.
I think what we might be seeing an increase of in the years to come would be in an area like solar technology, for example. I mean, the energy sector, it's crucial for any country. And again, due to the beneficial geographical situation of Kenya.
The sun that we're wasting, we're trying to run away from right now.
It's getting hot. It's beautiful, but I think we might see in the area of technology with a focus on energy. That would be my guess.
That would be really cool.
There are some amazing solutions being created, and with people here in Kenya being so connected, being so on top of things, there is a very fast-growing market.
So I have an interest. just random interest. I'm not a scientist. I'm not into energy per se, but I've always said it doesn't make sense that we have all this sun and we don't have cheap enough solar solutions to power an urban home, and more importantly, finance to be able to get that solution. Because if I'm paying a power bill of, say 1,000 bob every month or 5,000 bob, whatever it is, there's no reason that money shouldn't be going into solar equipment. And I haven't seen a model that fits something like that. Is that something you would look at?
It is something that Sweden is part of looking at in many parts of the world, including in Africa, because it is, of course, a much cheaper and better energy cleaner, source than cleaner, especially than most options. And there are companies, an increasing amount of companies, looking into this, and we're with various instruments, and please, I apologize to all the listeners and to you, I'm not an expert in this field.
No, neither am I. It's just a matter of interest.
No, and I mean the private sector is there. It's a matter for us as a part of the public sector to catch up and to find the correct modalities and instruments to make that affordable to as many people as possible in a country such as Kenya.
I agree completely. Tell me about your family. You were about to call your wife just before we started.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because of the look on your face.
No, I was trying to call her to just check in, and she didn't answer.
I don't have any advice for that. I have no response. But tell me about your family, man.
I'm married since... Oh, now we have a car alarm going off. Yeah. That happens. I'm married since almost 20 years.
Wow.
To my wife. She's named Maria. And we knew each other quite a few years before we got married.
Is Maria typically a Swedish name?
Fairly common name.
Okay.
Yeah, fairly common.
All right.
And we have 2 kids.
Wow.
15-year-old girl and an 11-year-old boy.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Is your wife happy with you?
Wow. I ask her that from time to time, and she claims that she is.
That's all you can ask for. I don't even feel like you should do follow-up questions.
No, but I mean, I'm not a saint in any way.
Yeah.
We have our issues. Some are her fault, some are mine. I fear more of them are my fault. And we argue, absolutely. I don't want to be in a relationship where you push everything under the rug and avoid talking about it.
Yeah.
Better to get it out there, say your piece, and I think if you do that, you're more likely to end up in a long-term healthy relationship where there's a solid give and take from both sides.
But a quick follow-up question to that is, what do you think you do that makes your marriage work?
I mean, as I mentioned, there is a give and take. I think that's crucial, both in, on the mental side and on the physical side. Yeah. There's always going to be, you do get more and more synced.
Yeah.
You learn as you go along what works, what's going to meet a bad reaction, and so on. I think I've definitely gotten better at this over the years. I try to give more time. And especially when you get kids into a relationship, it's all about time. You don't, and this is of course said often, especially now, around Christmas, it's not about fancy things. That's fun once in a while, but you can't base a relationship or a family on how much money you have, your ability to give, the beautiful presents. It's more about time. So what I try to do, and yes, does it infringe on what I maybe wanted to do on that particular instance? Sometimes, but simply to say no to some things and to devote an increased amount of time to the family and to my wife. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And then try to remain humble and realizing that, yes, I may be right, but she's not completely wrong. And we need to find a middle ground.
Wow. Yeah.
So not standing your ground, ironclad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to move because I know I'm right. That's not going to work.
Wow.
Not with my wife, at least.
What does she do?
She is a teacher.
Oh, wow.
So primary and secondary school level.
Yeah.
She's been a teacher for 16, 17 years. And now she's teaching here in Nairobi as well.
Oh, fantastic. What does she teach?
She teaches primarily Swedish, English, social sciences, music.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's fun to have a musician in the house, isn't it?
We do a lot of it together, actually.
Oh, do you play an instrument?
I made the mistake, or I'm going to blame this on my parents.
Okay.
They put a trumpet
Yes.
in my hands.
Yeah.
Or I can't even remember if they put it there or if I wanted it.
You found it, yeah.
And I played, I think, from 2nd to 9th grade. I'm probably the least talented trumpet player you will ever find.
But the horns are fun.
But they take so much practice.
They do.
They take so much practice for it to be enjoyable.
Yes.
And I was never able to get to that level because I also didn't enjoy practicing it. But I sing. So my wife and I, we actually first met in a music school in Sweden that we both attended from 4th to 9th grade.
Oh, wow. What part do you sing? Are you a tenor?
Used to be a tenor, but the singing voice is a muscle. It needs to be practiced. So
Yes.
I'll be a low tenor or a bass.
Or a baritone going down.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really cool. I can't wait to hopefully one day hear you sing and hear you and your wife sing. But you brought up something interesting, and allow me to go there. The influence from your parents. Your dad, a diplomat. And definitely we can see what the influence of that was. But what would you say really transferred from your dad to yourself as a man?
I could say it's only from my dad. And I mean, he grew to be quite senior. He's just retiring, actually.
Oh, wow.
Just very recently from having worked in the ministry himself. Minister of Foreign Affairs. He ended up being an ambassador both to Tanzania and Zimbabwe. And if there's one thing that that will never leave me from and not necessarily that he has said it to me, but he's imprinted by his way of acting, is basically you don't treat people differently depending on who they are. Everyone is worthy the exact same amount of respect, and I think that's put a very and as I said, I don't think he's ever said those words, but it's become very clear in his way of acting. I think that I've seen both at home and when I've watched him doing his work when I was younger, and even now when he's a bit older. It's and I find that I find that to be a very basically appealing, and I guess that's how I would like to be perceived as well, as a person and as a man.
Wow, that's deep. That's very cool.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go deep.
No. This is where you're allowed to go, wherever you want to go, and deep is our favorite place for us at Living Truthfully.
All right then.
Again, just looking at the influence from your parents, how have you seen? By looking at them, by watching them, or by experiencing them, how's that translated into who you are as a husband and as a father?
All right, let me preface this by saying that I come from a Christian home.
Okay.
I guess some listeners will know that Sweden is not known for its deep and widespread religious beliefs.
Yes.
But I come from a home we're still active in the Pentecostal movement.
Fantastic.
So that already there, I think it gives a bit of it colors your upbringing in a way. But a home that was characterized by a lot of love, not lack of discipline, but with a great foundation of love and care. Always knowing that even if I messed up, they would get angry. They could get angry, but they would be from a caring place.
Yeah.
But I'm going to come back to that point, because I mean, my mother, active, a career journalist, who very strong woman, who chose to leave her career partly to join my father when he was posted abroad, and to run an extremely active ambassador's household, which is a lot of work.
I can imagine it's a lot of work. It's very busy.
If you're having 2, 3, 4 dinners every week, and they have to be fancy and all of that requires quite a lot.
A lot of social energy
and social competence. That I see in both of my parents. So I mean, I think it's transferred a bit. I'm wishing for it to be more, because I notice how beneficial it is in the line of work that I myself am now into. But I would say a very generous, loving, and open household. I think those are some things that I really got from my parents.
Wow.
And a sense that if you have been blessed with a certain level of, be it money or material assets, I wouldn't say it's your obligation, but you should seriously consider sharing those with others that are more in need. Basically, I guess a very central tenet of the Christian belief as well. And that's really what my wife and I are trying to do. And it's not always easy. And my wife is much better at it than I am. But
that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. No, but trying to have those as sort of core values, and that you also want to pass on to your own kids. That if you maintain an open and generous attitude towards those around you, it's going to come back in a positive way. Maybe not necessarily, but sooner or later it will.
No, I think it will, and I think one of the ways that it does is just basically first with the joy that you have as a person and as a human being, because I think the opposite of when people are stingy, for lack of a better term, and closed, not open to experiences and to people, they live in fear and suspicion, and you're always trying to find another door to close.
Yeah.
I find that when you live an open and, as you say, generous, kind lifestyle, then you have freedom.
It definitely increases your freedom, yeah.
And I think when you start thinking about payoff, that's definitely one of the payoffs that you get. You might take it for granted, but you live a much happier, much more free and expressive life than most people. And of course, there's obviously the good name, which you subscribe to the Bible, and I do as well. And Scripture says, good name is better than money. And I think those things come back. So I'm just encouraging you. You're on the right path for sure.
Well, but I mean, as you know, and as everybody will know, you don't succeed every day. It's nothing that comes to you. Sometimes it comes afterwards. Oh, crap! I should have done this. That would have been the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But to at least make sure you have that instinct as a sort of a checkpoint.
Yeah.
Could I have done more with this? Could I have brought somebody else in? And more than anything, that's what I want to pass on to my kids.
Wow. To
maintain a generous attitude in life towards people and towards life as it comes along.
I want to ask you, of all the countries that you've lived in, either as a kid, with a diplomat father, or in the work that you've done, which one has influenced you the most as a person?
Oh, I'm not going to sit here and say that we moved around insanely, because we didn't. This might sound a bit corny, but I have a feeling that it was Kenya. I spent 4 years here as a kid, young child, and even though I only remember really, moments of it, the extremely good and the extremely bad things, a few accidents, or the joy of the first time coming to see in Mombasa when you saw the ocean, those visual things.
Yes.
I still think having been exposed, because what I do think sticks with a kid is when you see the contrasts in life.
Yeah.
Knowing what we had in Sweden when I was really small, coming here, living a very privileged life as the child of an embassy. He was a junior employee, but still, an employee in an embassy.
Yeah.
Living in a nice house and all of that. While you're driving around Nairobi and you see people on the streets. It still strikes me that seeing that contrast puts it sort of gets wedged in your mind. It certainly did in me. So the idea of coming back to this part of the world, while not sounding too naive, but seeing if there's more that we could do. What can we contribute with? Be it here at the embassy, where there's large-scale programs where you rarely see the benefit for the individual, or be it having employees at our house and treating them well, fairly and well, and seeing how they can make use of that. I think really it would be the Kenya years that left the most lasting impression.
Wow. Thank you for saying that, because I'm very proud of my country right now for that moment, because I think it's not so much the things that we say that we're great at, but it's the lasting impact that you have on people, and that's definitely lasting impact right there. I want to latch on to a statement you made. You don't always succeed.
Nope.
And that's true. It's true. It's been true of my life. So I'll tell you something. I started this podcast because I failed. I started this podcast because I failed at my marriage. I failed as a businessman. I had to shut down a business. I got divorced, and I lost everything I had built my life upon up to that time. And my healing process, which is really the background of this podcast, my healing process brought me to a place where I came face to face with myself. And in that process, I said, you know what, I want to not just be aware of who I am, but I want to be able to accept and acknowledge it. And in my process of acknowledgement, I came up with this podcast called Living Truthfully. And so we go deep here, we go very deep.
I'm noticing.
And for me, I was able to find purpose in my pain. I started this podcast as a way of probably saying the things that I felt I had withheld for a long time, being vulnerable for the first time, and wanting an outlet. And I thought people don't listen to podcasts, so so I started one. I was wrong, but then it also became the place that gave other men an opportunity to speak their truth. And we, in a silent way, or in a quiet way, started a revolution, in a sense, a space where men spoke their truth. And I like that statement you made, you don't always succeed, because a lot of times we find failure as either a place to propel or a place to have reflection. Many times it's broken people. And I want to know, when did you feel, when was the time you felt you had failed the most?
And now a word from our sponsors.
Is your team performing like a Formula One team? Because it should. It should be high performing and with great precision. After over 13 years of building teams for some of the biggest companies in Kenya and Uganda, I have developed the ultimate team building thought process named Pit Stop. Now, this process will help your team build trust, become innovative, and increase performance. Now, if this sounds like the team you want to work with, even with the challenges brought in by COVID-19, shoot me an email on amanimaranga@gmail.com, and I will work at bringing your team to performing like a Formula One team. And now, back to our story. And I want to know, when did you feel, when was the time you felt you had failed the most?
it's a matter of choosing, really. I mean, first, at least, I fail on a daily basis. I think both as a person, as a man, and not least as a Christian, that simply must be recognized. It could be the smallest things, how I get angry if somebody is driving badly in front of me on the street. One of the biggest, but then you have those momentous moments that really end up defining your life. I think it's my biggest failures are ones where my professional ambitions, my professional desires have clashed with my family life. I'm not that young anymore, but a few years back, when you have this vision of where you want to go, by when you want to have accomplished certain things, and it can be disastrous if you get blinded by that ambition, be it in this career or if you're a businessman or whatever you do. It's still something that can be a very powerful thing and take up your whole being. And I think, so about 5 years back was probably my biggest crisis, when I was involved in a very large project at work, traveling immensely, and spending some months I was clearly away from home more than I actually spent time at home with my family. It ended well, for which I'm extremely grateful today. But having made a few choices led me onto a path where it all could have come crashing down, including my marriage, which was seriously tried during this period. We came through this, and work-wise, things stayed on the right path. But it cost me. I eventually ended up in the hospital for exhaustion and some heart problems, and I needed to do some changes and prioritize a bit differently. So I would say that's my biggest failure, where I really just sort of had the eye on what I thought was the prize, and it became too difficult to juggle both worlds.
I'm wondering, how does that inform what you said earlier about giving time to your family?
Yeah.
Do you feel there's a direct connection between what happened 5 years ago and now?
What happened during that period and lasted for a few years, it's difficult though, because I got to experience work-wise some of the most. I learned so much about the stuff that I work with, but also about myself in those situations. But in the end, it went too far. And let's just say that when I was done with that, and in our line of work, we need to choose our next posting, or you apply for a number of postings, and then if you're lucky, you get one of them. And I was choosing between Nairobi and other places, and I ended up only applying here to Nairobi for that specific reason, because I thought here work will be fun, it'll be fascinating. It's one of our biggest embassies in the world, but I will be able to have the time that I need with my wife and my kids. So I would say that conscious decision of not looking at other places that potentially could have been more rewarding career-wise was probably one of the best decisions I've made.
Wow.
3 years ago. Yeah.
That's a good story.
It ended well, but I can tell you it was heading in the wrong direction for quite a while.
I want to follow that up, and just in a sense, as a man, you have this ambition is like wired in us. You know, we have our illusions, in a sense, or desires on one hand, of grandeur, of greatness, of impact and legacy, and I want my name to mean something, you know, and I want to have impact, and I want to make sure that my presence is not forgotten, you know, and I feel like that's God-given. I feel like that's God-given. I often joke and say God gave Adam a job before he gave him a wife, you know. He told him, go tend the garden, name the animals. So I feel like that work thing is God-given. It's not our fault that we have it.
No.
And yet, often, we have to make choices that in some ways sacrifices that. And I'm wondering what, and for good reason. I mean, there's no reason better than family. And I don't think I'd choose my family first over a job any day. But I'm wondering, what does it do to you as a man? You know, when you have to make that sacrifice. What did it do to you?
Well, let me put it this way. I will not, and I'm only speaking for myself. I'm not going to call what I did a sacrifice. I would say that it was saving grace.
Okay.
More than a sacrifice. I mean, when you're in a relationship, and this happens to many people, where one of the parties is for a period more successful, or gets that promotion, or gets the salary raise, and that can cause friction. And I mean, I think it's important over time that you do what you can to balance it out. If there are sacrifices to be made, they must be distributed fairly equally between the two parties, no matter what relationship you're in. I agree with you. Us men, whether this is genetically coded in us, which I fear it might be, or if it's socially brought upon us from birth, you know, we're supposed to be the main breadwinner. We're supposed to provide and be successful, and etc., etc. Of course, I think, and unfortunately, I think because of this social construct around what it is to be a man and to do all of those good things for your family and for yourself, mind you, men tend to take that hit, you know, when the failure comes, or the disappointment, or the non-promotion, when you're passed over. I do think men take that generally harder than women, probably because of the social construct around it.
And the expectations we have on ourselves, and as people have them on us. Yeah.
In my case, when that has happened, which it has on a few occasions, you don't want to make people see you. You don't want people to see you cry, right? I'm not so good at that. I'm a bit of a weeper myself. But the person who sees me crying constantly is my wife. Whether we're watching a sad movie, or whether I've been passed over at work, or whatever it might be. You need that one person to which you can be completely open. And I think, honestly, that's what's gotten me through those times when I've been, when you start doubting yourself because of the non-confirmation from the outside world. Because otherwise you're going to be quite lonely in that disappointment, in that sorrow, in that feeling of inadequacy.
I think you just made me think about, the number of times I've wished I had someone that I could be as open with. Like, I don't cry, man.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know how to.
Never?
Not never. Out of 100% of my life, 2%. maybe.
Yeah, for
maybe
me it's getting worse and worse. But I have a grandfather and a father who are both quite easy on the tears.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's just passed on.
I think it's an excellent thing, because the moments I wish I could cry. Like, I kid you not, yesterday I learned I lost a friend who was hiking in Elementaita, got a heat stroke.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sudden. And I was shocked and sad at the same time. Yesterday, my best friend relocated to the US. And so my kids, their mom and I were there too, because his kids are best friends to my children as well. We brought them up together. He's a godfather to my kids. And so we were there to say bye before he went to the airport, and my children bawled. I mean, they just cried and cried. And I wanted to cry with them, but
Nothing?
Nothing. So I got home in the evening, and I kid you not, I got home in the evening, and I had this acknowledgement that I've had a really sad day.
Yeah.
You know, like I knew it in my head that I've had a really sad day. Like I was carrying a lot of grief, and I want to have an outlet for it, but I don't know how to cry.
Yeah, I don't know. This is when I don't know what to respond, because my situation is completely the opposite. I'm actually, and I spoke to my wife about this as late as this last weekend, that I feel it's becoming almost socially embarrassing with, tears flowing.
Yeah.
Be it, we just had a loss in our family.
I'm sorry about that.
Back in Sweden. Somebody who meant tremendous amount to especially to my wife, who's been with her whole life, and close to our kids. And whenever we talk about it, happened a couple of weeks ago. Whenever we talk about it, or when we were looking through pictures and we see pictures of her, this that comes back immediately, and I don't know, it strikes. It's like hitting a button, and the tears start flowing. So I would say for me, it's almost socially awkward. But I really don't know how to comment on not being able to cry.
Yeah, and it's not. I'm not resisting it. That's the thing. I'm not resisting it.
Yeah.
I think I'm past that thing of men shouldn't cry, and I walked past that choir,
Yeah.
and I accept the emotional awareness, the embracing the different emotions that I feel, and so I was aware. And I embraced the fact that I'm sad.
Yeah.
I felt the loss, but I don't know what it will take to have
Yeah, and
tears.
I guess tears mean different things to different people. Some people feel that it's the greatest relief just to be able to cry. To me, honestly, there's no specific meaning to it. It just happens. Be it from, the passing of a loved one, or a movie that I find, or be it watching, Extreme Home Makeover, when that single woman with 8 kids, when she gets that beautiful new house, it's impossible not to cry.
So that's the closest to when I cry. That's the closest to when I cry.
Right, so you need the Hollywood version.
So I need the Hollywood version. So Extreme Makeover, Britain's Got Talent, those Got Talent moments.
And they're horrible.
And they play this, just the right soundtrack for the moment, and you are in jubilation with that person, and I'll feel the tears, come just close to my eyes, and clean out the little dust that there is.
Oh yeah.
And then go back.
All right then. To be honest, I'm not sure it's something you need to work on, so to speak. You seem to be a guy who's got his emotions fairly close by.
Fairly close by.
I wouldn't put too much weight on the tears themselves.
I want to cry. I want to cry.
Yeah, I'll let you know when I figure out the code.
Okay, thanks. I need it. Call me the next time you're crying.
Sure.
Maybe it will trigger something.
It'll be embarrassing, but sure.
No. We're here now. We've learned some vulnerability with each other, so
yeah,
we can cry together.
Yes.
Let's talk about global guy talk.
Let's.
So let me set some context for it, for the conversation that I want to have with you. Because I feel that first, it's been said randomly and loosely, and sometimes people especially in this part of the world, they say it sometimes in jest. Men have been left behind. The boy child. You hear about the boy child. The boy child. I'm not even on that bus, but I'm on the bus where I feel like the opportunity for real, honest, vulnerable conversations for men, no one wants to put energy into that. At least that's what I felt. Okay? So there's a lot of this good stuff on female empowerment. And listen, I have a daughter. I want her to live in a world where she feels she can be heard, where she doesn't have to work twice as hard as a guy to get any opportunity, where she's treated fairly, and where she can be a full woman, and that doesn't mean that she gets any less of anything. So I want to make sure, I want to live in a world where she has all equal opportunity. And I feel like she's getting there. She's in that generation that will probably enjoy that. I do feel, however, that there has been an impact on men that came as a direct result of female empowerment. And I feel like that impact was a blame game. You men are not doing this. You're not creating this. You're not doing the patriarchy, this conversation. And it could have some truth. But as a result, any effort that is created for not even empowerment, just space for men, I feel like no one wants to be on that path. And for the last 2 years, I felt alone. When I started this conversation on men, just having men alone, I even got some backlash. Yeah, I got some backlash for having a podcast where the female opinion is not aired.
All right.
And I understand it.
Says a lot.
I understand it.
Yeah.
So to come and find not just, and I don't know why I never saw it before, but not just, the public sector, which you work in, doing something and putting, some energy just to create space for men to talk. I cannot tell you how important that night was for me. And I felt affirmed. I really felt affirmed.
Yeah.
And so I want to say thank you for inviting me to the Global Guy Talk.
Most welcome.
And I want to know, why do you do it?
Yeah, Global Guy Talk. Sweden is considered to be one of the more gender equal countries of the world. Since 5 years back, we're also promoting what we call a feminist foreign policy, where we're looking at the rights and the resources. And there's a third R that I cannot believe that I'm forgetting at this very moment. Okay. Of women in foreign policy. I mean, this comes from, of course, the long history where women have often been shoved aside. Women have not been listened to, taken into consideration, especially in the foreign policy field. We know from extensive research that peace agreements where women have seats at the table, those peace agreements last longer.
Oh, wow.
They become more sustainable than those that are done only by men. So that's sort of the professional background.
Yes.
And then we believe that and this is, trust me, not only in Africa. I mean, we're not that, I wouldn't say that even in Europe you will see great differences in how gender equality is permeated throughout society in different countries. And please, we're not there in Sweden yet either. We still have some work to do. But I would say in African countries there is a very conservative tradition. The patriarchy that you mentioned has been and is still quite prevalent in society. Women, girls are often not put in the forefront. And I think here, so while we want to do the guy talk, and could be done anyhow, could be done by a group of 4 guys buying a pizza, sitting down, having a dinner, and having an honest conversation. What we're doing is we're following a format that has been provided to us by the Swedish Institute, which is a fantastic agency in Sweden that is working to promote Swedish export, but also Swedish values.
I've actually had a chance to look at the website, and I love what I've seen on the formats.
Good. And I mean, we're free to use it as we wish, and we chose to do so here at the embassy. So while it provides a fantastic format for men to sit down, and I mean, the other week when you were there, we were about 20 of us.
About 20 guys, yeah.
And I can promise you guys, everyone listening, we were sitting very socially distanced and all of that. Very responsible. So while it provides a safe space for guys to have honest conversations, it really, in the long run, it has the added benefit of making men, step up to the plate. Be men, be better men. Treat your significant other with, as an equal. That's a big part of why we do this. Not only for the promotion of, men's mental health. It has that, I hope it will have that effect. But it's also to make men step up and realize that we have been in control of this game for a long time. It's time that we do so responsibly. It's time that we let the other party in. It's time that we're humble. And I mean, it takes a real man to do that.
It does.
So I would say that that's really the driving force behind the Global Guy Talk.
What's the driving force for you as Michael?
Well, as I said before, I'm by no means perfect as a man and as a boss, but I do feel that I have certain core values that resonate very well with the material that we get in this Guy Talk complex, and I think it's fascinating to sit down and share it with others. See, does it actually work in real life? Does it work in the Kenyan context? It could play out very differently in another country if things are too touchy or sensitive to talk about. Yeah. And to be honest, I would love to see some local Kenyan organizations pick it up and do it themselves without us hosting it at the embassy or at the residence.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you next. Like, what would you like to see about Global Guy Talk or the culture of it?
Yeah, no, we would like to see this, we would like to see it picked up by local actors who feel that it's a constructive way to approaching issues concerning manhood, concerning gender equality, and concerning how we can all get a better life in our homes. Because I mean, if you're a man if you're secure enough in yourself that you can be open with not only your partner but also with your friends, you're more likely to be a better man, and that's going to benefit everybody around you.
Well, I can tell you for sure, you have one guy here.
Look forward to have you again.
Who's not just going to be a guest in your next Global Guy Talk, but after seeing the resource that you have there, I'm definitely going to adopt it. For what I've been doing with the guys, with the Den, and I'm happy to see how we can link with the Swedish Institute and propagate the conversation. So you have one disciple.
We're not looking for disciples, but we will take them if they come.
I want to finish up this conversation thinking about legacy. And you have mentioned some of the things that you hope you'll be remembered for, the values that you saw from your dad about generosity and openness and treating people the same across. And I applaud those things because that's something I want I'd love myself to hear about myself. Hopefully when I'm alive, but certainly when I'm dead. Like I hear you. It's one of the things I want them to say. If you could sum up your legacy in one thought, what you'd like your legacy to be, what would that thought be?
Wow. That question, I wish you could have prepared me for in advance. That's a big one. Legacy can be a dangerous word if you do it for the sake of the legacy. But what would I like? Okay, it would go something along the lines of this. He did it to the best of his ability, and he remembered to think of others while doing it. So no matter what I accomplish in life, I want people to know that I did all I could to get there, while not forgetting those around me. I know that's extremely vague.
No,
but
it's good.
But I think that's the best I can do on short notice.
That's good. Michael, I can't thank you enough for your time, for your openness, which is evident by having me here today. And just by your generosity of words and what you're doing for men here. You had 20 very influential people in that room. And for me, I feel like that's very strategic because you affect in return more men because of the kind of people that you had.
That was sort of the idea.
And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for doing that. Thank you for being on my podcast. And I can't wait for us to pod again. Maybe after the next Global Guy Talk and see what is the progress that has been made.
Be happy to come back.
Pass my heartfelt regards to your good wife and to your children. Thank you so much, bro.
Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck with your continued work.
I really appreciate that. God bless you.
God bless you.